Welcome to SRAM Technical Communications. This video will show you how to service the RockShox Reverb Height Adjust seat post. You will need common bicycle maintenance tools as well as some specialty tools. A complete list of necessary tools and supplies can be found in the video description below. You will also need a Reverb full service kit. For part number information, please refer to the RockShox spare parts catalog online at sram.com/service. If the speed adjust knob on your remote is silver and there are no graphics printed at the top of your seat post, you will need the Reverb A1 service kit. If the speed adjust knob on your remote is black and there are no graphics printed at the top of your seat post, you will need the Reverb A2 service kit. If the speed adjust knob on your remote is black and the word RockShox is printed at the top of your seat post, you have a Reverb B1 model. Go to sram.com/service to find information for Reverb B1 models. To jump to a particular section of the service procedure, click any of these corresponding links. Check the top cap bushing for play. If the bushing has play, you will need to replace the entire top cap assembly, which is available as a pre-assembled kit. Raise the seat post to its highest position. Remove the saddle. Loosen or remove any hose guides. Remove the seat post from the bicycle. Unthread the hose barb and strain relief from the seat post. The seat post consists of two main components, the upper post and the lower post. Remove the snap ring from the bottom of the lower post. Push on the seat post head so that the upper post slides through the lower post, exposing the inner shaft. Remove the cap from the Schrader valve. Using a valve tool, release all of the air pressure. Then, remove the Schrader valve core. Install RockShox vise blocks into the vise. Clamp the inner shaft into the 10mm groove of the vise blocks just tight enough to keep the shaft from spinning. Use an adjustable wrench to remove the outer seal head and foam washer from the shaft. The bottom-out O-ring may be dislodged when you remove the seal head. If this happens, simply set it aside. Otherwise, remove the post from the vise and use a pick to remove the bottom-out O-ring. It is recommended that all new O-rings and seals be greased before installation. Replace the two O-rings on the seal head with new O-rings. Remove the RockShox vise blocks and put aluminum soft jaws into the vise. Clamp the lower post into the soft jaws below the minimum insertion line, just tight enough to keep the post from spinning. Pull up on the upper post until it stops. Use an adjustable wrench to unthread the top cap from the lower post. Remove the upper post assembly from the lower post and set it aside. Be very careful not to strike the inner shaft against the lower post, as this may scratch the inner shaft. Read the post measurement located on the exterior of the lower post. 420mm posts and 355mm posts have a false bottom insert. Use a long wooden or plastic dowel to push the false bottom insert out of the lower post. Only 420mm and 355mm posts have the false bottom insert. Clamp the upper post into the soft jaws at the flat section of the post head. Be careful not to clamp the hose mounting surface or bleed port. Remove the 3 brass keys from the upper post. Note the number of lines etched into each brass key. The number of lines specifies the diameter of the keys, and all 3 keys should be the same. Replacement keys must be the same diameter as the original keys to ensure proper fit. Remove the external bushing from the internal seal head. Remove the top cap from the upper post. As mentioned, if the top cap bushing has play, you must replace the entire top cap assembly, which is available as a pre-assembled kit. If the top cap bushing does not have play, just replace the seals. Remove the O-ring and foam ring from inside the top cap. Clamp the top cap by the wrench flats into a flat section of the soft jaws. Use caution not to over-tighten the top cap into the vise. Over-tightening can cause the top cap to become misshapen. Use a downhill tire lever to pry the dust wiper out of the top cap. Install a new O-ring into the top cap. Soak a new foam ring in RockShox Reverb fluid and install it into the top cap above the bushing. Carefully remove the energizer spring from the new dust wiper. Insert the small end of the new dust wiper into the bottom of the lower post. Place the top cap on your bench with the logo facing up. Use the lower tube to depress the dust wiper into the top cap. Reinstall the energizer spring. Clamp the upper post into the soft jaws at the flat section of the post head. Be careful not to clamp the hose mounting surface or bleed port. Use a 23 mm wrench to loosen the inner seal head. Some air pressure may still exist within the post, which could cause the seal head to dislodge unexpectedly. Loosen the inner seal head very slowly with one hand on the seal head to allow any pressure to dissipate in a controlled manner. Do not let the wrench strike or scratch the shaft. Only use the wrench to loosen the seal head. Then, place a rag over the seal head and finish unthreading by hand. Remove the inner seal head and shaft from the upper post. Slide the inner seal head off of the shaft. Remove the two glide rings and the O-ring from the shaft piston. Clean the shaft piston, then install new glide rings and an O-ring. The O-ring should be positioned between the two glide rings. Remove the 3 O-rings and the top-out bumper from the inner seal head. For inner seals, it is best to poke directly into the seals to remove them so that you do not scratch the seal head. Clean the inner seal head, then install new O-rings and a new top-out bumper. The internal backup ring in the seal head does not need to be replaced. The backup ring must be positioned nearest the hexagonal end of the seal head. Remove the upper post from the vise. Pour the fluid from the upper post into a fluid container. Place the upper post back into the vise tight enough to keep it from moving. Be careful not to clamp the hose mounting surface or bleed port. Use a pick to remove the IFP tube from the upper post. Use caution not to scratch the IFP tube or upper post. If the IFP does not come out with the IFP tube, insert a 20 cm long cable tie into the upper post and through the IFP until it rests against the end of the post. Insert 4 to 5 additional cable ties in the same manner. Once all of the cable ties are inserted, pull on all the ties at once to remove the IFP from the upper post. The latest full-service kit includes a new one-piece IFP that is backwards compatible with all models. It is recommended that the new IFP be used. If a new IFP is not available, for aluminum IFPs, remove the 4 glide rings and 2 O-rings. Clean the IFP and install new O-rings and glide rings. Both the internal and external O-rings should be positioned between the glide rings. For plastic IFPs, remove the O-rings. Clean the IFP and install new O-rings. Remove the upper post from the soft jaws and rotate it so that the post head is on top. For Reverb A1 models, remove the snap ring, use a pick to remove the washer, use pliers to remove the poppet retainer plug, and use pliers to remove the poppet. For Reverb A2 models, remove the snap ring. There is no washer for Reverb A2 models. To remove the poppet retainer plug, thread the bleed tool from the RockShox Bleed kit into the threads on the top of the plug. Use the bleed tool to remove the plug. Use pliers to remove the poppet. Remove the 2 O-rings from the poppet. Clean the poppet, then install new O-rings. Remove the O-ring from the poppet retainer plug. Clean the poppet retainer plug. Then, install a new O-ring. Clean the inside of the upper post as well as the inside and outside of the IFP tube. Install the Reverb Post Bleed tool into the post head, then close the clamp on the bleed tool. Clamp the upper post into the soft jaws at the flat section of the post head. Apply a liberal amount of SRAM butter to the top cap seals and bushing. Install the top cap onto the upper post. Slide the top cap until it clears the key slots. Wrap a rag around the post to catch any fluid overflow. Insert the non-ported end of the IFP tube into the upper post. Push firmly on the IFP tube until it snaps securely into the upper post. Pour RockShox Reverb fluid into the IFP tube. Continue to pour as the fluid flows over the IFP tube and fills the upper post until the fluid is level with the top of the upper post. Remove any bubbles from the surface of the fluid. Apply a small amount of SRAM butter to the O-rings on the IFP. If using the new one-piece IFP, fill the U-cup lip on both sides with SRAM butter. With one hand, hold the bleed tool in place, and with the other hand, slowly press the IFP into the upper post. IFP orientation is not critical. Next, you will need the Reverb IFP height tool. Hold the bleed tool securely in the post head to prevent it from dislodging. Hold a rag over the end of the IFP height tool and slowly push the IFP into the upper post, stopping at the depth that corresponds with the seat post travel. Apply a small amount of SRAM butter to the shaft piston glide ring and O-ring. Apply a liberal amount of SRAM butter to the inner seal head seals and bushing. Slide the inner seal head onto the shaft piston. Hold the bleed tool securely into the post head while inserting the shaft piston into the IFP tube just enough for the O-ring to seal below the ports of the IFP tube. The shaft piston O-ring must be inserted below the ports of the IFP tube to create a seal. If it does not properly seal, fluid will drip constantly from the bleed tool once the hose clamp is released, causing the fluid level to be incorrect. Place a fluid container underneath the upper post. Release the hose clamp on the post bleed tool. If hydraulic fluid drains from the hose, air has entered the IFP tube and the IFP removal and installation process must be repeated. Remove the post from the vise and pour any excess fluid from the upper post into the fluid container. Place the post back into the soft jaws. Thread the inner seal head into the upper post. Use a torque wrench with a 23 mm crowfoot socket to tighten the seal head. Be very careful not to touch the inner shaft with the seal head or wrench, as this may damage the shaft. Clamp the hose on the bleed tool. Remove the post from the vise and clamp the post back into the soft jaws at the inner seal head. Remove the bleed tool from the post head. Use the Reverb oil height tool and a syringe from the RockShox Bleed kit to draw any excess fluid from inside the post head. It is critical to remove all of the fluid from this area. Apply a small amount of SRAM butter to the poppet O-rings. Do not apply SRAM butter in between the poppet O-rings. Insert the poppet into the post head. Push firmly until it stops. Apply a small amount of SRAM butter to the poppet retainer plug O-ring. For older Reverb A1 models, use pliers to reinstall the poppet retainer plug. Reinstall the washer and snap ring. For Reverb A2 models, orient the poppet retainer plug with the threaded hole facing up. Push firmly on the plug until it clears the snap ring groove. Install the snap ring into the post head. Check that the snap ring is properly seated by using the pliers to rotate it back and forth. Clean the post head, then remove the post from the vise. Install a new bushing onto the inner seal head. Clean the inside of the lower post, then apply a liberal amount of SRAM butter to the inside. While squeezing the bushing, slide the lower post over the upper post until the end of the lower post covers the bushing. Rotate the lower post to align the slots in the upper post with the slots in the lower post. The laser-etched RockShox logo should face the back of the post. Apply a liberal amount of SRAM butter to the key slots. Install the keys into the key slots, then apply SRAM butter to the keys. Slide the lower post over the keys and against the top cap. Clamp the lower post into the soft jaws below the minimum insertion line, just tight enough to keep the post from spinning. Use a torque wrench with a 34mm crowfoot socket to tighten the top cap. Push the lower post into the upper post until it stops. For 380mm and 430mm posts, install the bottom-out O-ring, then the foam washer onto the shaft. 355mm and 420mm posts have a false bottom insert. Install the bottom-out O-ring onto the shaft. Apply a small amount of SRAM butter to the false bottom insert O-ring. Then install the insert into the post. The orientation of the false bottom insert is not critical. Install the foam washer onto the shaft. Install RockShox vise blocks into the vise and clamp the inner shaft into the 10mm groove of the vise blocks tight enough to keep the shaft from spinning. Apply a small amount of SRAM butter to the outer seal head O-rings. Install the outer seal head onto the inner shaft. Use a torque wrench with a 26mm crowfoot socket to tighten the outer seal head. Remove the post from the vise. Apply a small amount of SRAM butter to the Schrader valve. Place the post back into the vise. Install the Schrader valve into the outer seal head. Pressurize the seat post to 250 psi or 17 bar. Install the valve cap. Push the lower post over the outer seal head until the snap ring groove is visible. Install the snap ring into the groove. Check that the snap ring is properly seated by using the pliers to rotate it back and forth. Clean the post to remove any SRAM butter or reverb fluid. Apply a moderate amount of friction paste to the inside of the seat tube and contact surfaces of the seat post. Do not apply grease. Friction paste is designed to create friction between the contact surfaces to prevent the seat post from slipping without over-tightening the seat clamp device. Failure to use friction paste could allow your seat post to slip during use, which could lead to serious injury and/or death. Install the seat post into the bicycle. Tighten the binder bolt or quick release to the frame manufacturer specification. Rethread the remote hose and strain relief into the seat post. Before operating the Reverb, you must bleed the remote system. Please review the Reverb remote system bleed video by clicking this link. This concludes service of the RockShox Reverb Height Adjust Seat Post.